Hello, America. Welcome to the Junto Podcast, where we promote the practical applications of critical thinking and bold creativity. I'm your host, Edgar Mills. Thank you for joining us. Hello, good people. Welcome to episode 44 of the Junto Podcast. I appreciate you for listening. So today we are going to jump into the dark projections of a dystopian future. And we're going to compare and contrast some things with our own modern dystopia. But mainly we're going to talk about how suppressing organic creativity crushes the soul, and why we should guard ourselves with our own art and music and even our journey for self-discovery, how we should guard our creative side. You all know that I analyze things through lenses of libertarianism and individualism and even struggling Christianity. I'm flawed in that capacity, but still I like to try to see that perspective. The goal of everything I deliver is always to kind of seek objective truth and common ground amid the chaos, whatever chaos is going on. So let's jump in. In this modern world we live in, especially in America and westernized countries, Big Brother is omnipresent. Big Brother looms. He's on every street camera and every store, on your phone and your computer, any government building for sure, stadiums, banks, even the ATM's got a big camera right there, front-facing camera. Big Brother's everywhere. And these dystopian societies that I'm going to be talking about, they like to sort of erase the individual in favor for the collective, all in the name of the greater good, So so-called activists, which we'll call the collective, they like to don their masks and grab their Molotovs and go spark party manufactured revolution wherever they're directed. Now, famous dystopian stories that we know, like 1984 from George Orwell, or Anthem from Ayn Rand, was one of her earlier works. And the movies like V for Vendetta is a pretty good one. And then the often underappreciated Equilibrium, which my wife and I just watched, and it kind of sparked the idea to do this podcast. They all have a common goal. If you look at the commonalities through those, is they're all a little futuristic for sure, and they all have an overbearing, centralized authority. And that the common goal from those authorities is they like to erase the individual identity and replace it with a collective identity. And in the process of that, the authorities they'll ban like classic literature, and they will destroy classic works of art, and they outlaw music. And why is that common through all of these things, or through all of these dystopian stories? Those things that I just named off, they stir emotion. Yeah, they stir emotion. And then that emotion within an individual sort of shapes their unique identity. And their unique identity leads down the road of individuality. Yeah? Now, collective protests and stuff like that stirs emotion too. But the emotions that they stir are envy and outrage and anger and things like that. And that's, well, there's no real beauty in that. And there's no peace in any of that. Opposite that, though, a symphony, for instance, and I've been to a few, it will elicit emotions. but those emotions are very personal and very unique to the individual, right? I may be listening to some piece by Mozart, for instance, and I may hear some deep sorrow or anguish, whereas another man sitting right next to me may hear and feel some sort of, I don't know, like triumph and over struggle or something like that. It it really just depends, on you. At any rate, it will move you and make you feel some way. Now, these dystopias we're talking about, and they're not too distant in the future, by the way. These authoritarian regimes, they like to flatten out humanity into just obedient masses, right? The subjects to the whatever the crown is, whatever the corporation that's running the show, whatever. They like to turn the masses into just a mindless collective, just a bunch of NPCs just milling about, waiting to be told what to do. And they strip away all of these examples and many of them. Now, not just those examples, but many of them. They strip away individuality, and they strip away that what I will call a divine spark of free will that we all inherently possess as human beings. And that as a Christian, I believe God, bestowed upon us as a gift of free will. And these books and movies, they're not just stories, folks. They're what I think are very, very perceptive, almost, sadly, almost clairvoyant warnings to us, the modern reader. Especially for libertarians like me, right? Libertarians who prize personal liberty above all things. Yeah, these stories, especially from, I think Ayn Rand wrote Anthem quite possibly in the 30s. Now, I'm going to look that up real quick to see when that was written. There's a movie out there called Metropolis that was, I want to say 1929. I don't even think they really knew what communism was at that time, and still they were describing it to a T. Let's see, when was Anthem written? 1938. Yeah, that's right. Now, I'll say that like Equilibrium and some of these other sort of futuristic V for Vendetta, even Demolition Man, guy. If you ever watched the Stallone, the 80s Demolition Man, it still had all the underpinning. They're all similar stories. The modern ones are. But even the older ones still had some very disturbing parallels. But yeah, I believe that these authoritarian, centralized, tyrannical even governments and whatnot, that's the first thing they try to do is crush individuality and then take away your free will. Yep. And throughout some of these stories, why did they suppress creativity? Why? Well, creativity basically is free thinking, right? That's being a free thinker to create. And action, that's what it is. Creativity is free thinking. Free thinking leads to strong individual opinions on things. Next thing you know, you're an individualist. Imagine, if you will, a near future where, I don't know, Department of Homeland Security or the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or I'm going to throw an imaginary one out there. What if there were an agency called the Contraband Enforcement Bureau, and they were out there executing no-knock raids at 3 a.m. in America, looking for literature or albums or CDs or paintings. And in this near future, essentially emotions, like in the movie Equilibrium, were outlawed. But at minimum, dissent is outlawed, right? Now, a lot of you out there right now believe that if you you don't believe it. You say it, but you don't believe it. That if you express dissent toward the current sitting government, that you'll be murdered or arrested and all that. And that some of the actions are illegal, which there's a lot of gray area, and a lot of nuance going on out there with what's happening with the immigration stuff right now. But imagine if they had the authority to do that all the time, every time, for not just immigration, but for you owning a piece of fine art. It's possible, is it? I don't know, man. I think it is. Individuality crushed under collective boots, good people. And dig this and dig it good. It don't matter if the boots on your neck are red or blue, folks. Yeah, it don't matter. So if you're a collectivist, if you're on the socialism and communist train, you just think those boots aren't going to be on your neck. If it's your side, you're dead wrong. And I'll give you an example. What's good? UK. Leftists in the UK, the government is jailing people for just social media critiques of the government actions surrounding immigration. You write something ugly about it. It ain't even got to be foul language or anything. You just write some strong disagreement with the government, they roll you up. Madness. Why would the government ban these kind of things? So we're looking at the movies and we understand it, right? But why would the government ban these types of things? Because a symphony, good people, can stir the heart. A novel can intelligently and artfully question authority. A sculpture can inspire a rebellion. When I was young, I don't know, 12 or 13, there was a giant statue of Atlas outside of a business, and this was in Forest Park, Georgia. And I saw that statue daily. And it was one of those things that sometimes when I was riding my bike, I would go and just kind of check it out and look at it. It was very majestic. It was big. It was huge and majestic. Strength. It embodied strength. Atlas holding the heavens upon his shoulders. That statue, when I was 12, and the feelings that it invoked in me are still with me, folks. For some reason, it had a profound effect. And to that end, even today, right now, in fact, I have a giant chest tattoo of Atlas, dead center of my chest. An idea that, has been with me since the age of 12. Art can move you, good people, if you allow it, if you're open to it. But as a radical individualist, which I am, I see clearly the ultimate tyranny, right? The ultimate tyranny is that this government or any government is stealing and suppressing our God-given imagination and our free will. In 1984, the book 1984, Orwell's protagonist was Winston, right? And Winston, he clings to his words. He found a little spot in his apartment where he could be out of the eyesight of the camera, and he would write. In Equilibrium, Sean Bean's character, he clung to poetry. And before he was executed, if he read a passage, and that passage was this: "But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I've spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams." This is from W.B. Yeats' poem, He Wishes for the Cloths of Heaven. And what that passage alone shows is a very deep vulnerability and tenderness. And that's a vulnerability and tenderness that we are all capable of. I know some of us, especially in my line of work, see vulnerability and tenderness as a weakness and a crutch. But you can learn to appreciate those and yes, even compartmentalize them. But they're a piece of you. They exist, whether you think they do or not. And art will bring that out and maybe even teach you to appreciate things like you haven't yet. So these fictional accounts I'm speaking of here, how do they parallel our modern, slightly more subtle dystopia? We don't have a lot of overt bans in America. Well, we don't need them. Well, except England, ironically. But besides that, no, we don't need them. Our chains are far more subtle. Social media is what keeps us sedated and compliant. Yeah, social media. 20 years ago, you would have said just the media, the mainstream media. But it's true, though. Social media is just a hyper version of that, right? Endless feeds, endless algorithms that build up our echo chambers and that throw fuel on the flames of political rants and tribal wars and red team, blue team. And all that drowns out like proper independent voices. You see the most popular, even on social media, even on podcasts, the most popular stuff is all like political commentary, really. And then there's like pop, whatever stuff. But I think even then, political commentary and culture war commentary is the most common or the most popular stuff out there. And then because we're consumers, right? And all these platforms and whatnot, you get these 10, 15-second viral clips that enrage us and get us all hating each other, like just in a minute. And then the next thing you know, they vanish, poof, like smoke. 3-4 days later, yeah, the video's out there. Anything on digits stays on digits. It's there forever. But, it's not getting pushed down your throat. It's gone after a few days because it's getting less clicks. And then the corporate media, like the mainstream media, they'll twist and spin these hyperbolic narratives, for the clicks, for the commercial economic benefits there. And their narratives, especially mainstream media, they push groupthink over truth big style. They aim to tell you what and how to think. Exactly what you should think and what you should think about it. So over the decades, we've swapped our meaningful and soulful experiences of interacting with art for like these quick fixes from the social media. And we're hypnotized by the screens, and that's just turning us into the data. We have become the data. And to the government, we've always just been the data. And all of this is contrary to my sense of self-reliance, right? All of this belittles our universal, I say it again, universal call as humans to seek out beauty in God's creation. Look for the beauty in God's creation, not the quick hits on the social media. And here we are in America. We're not commanded by some malevolent dictator yet. Yet. But we are seduced 24/7 into conformity. We don't need a dictator to make us conform. Social media has done it for us. 2 different paths, right? Dictatorship or brain melt. It's 2 different paths, but it's getting the same results, and that is compliance. All right. That went a little hard. Ease back a little bit. I'm going to express what I believe to be our need as a human race here, but especially in America, to embrace the fine arts, true art, historic art, and not even historic. I mean, even modern art, but embrace art and celebrate the artists, the creators, and I mean real creators. We have to attempt to break free from this government and corporate fueled hypnotism and all this friggin' prepackaged and prefabricated content that we consume every minute of the day. We got to try to break from that. And it's very simple, folks. We just need to stop and smell the flowers. And I mean, quite literally. Soak in nature. Soak it in. And then, yes, dive into fine art, classical music, ballet, symphonies. And all these things I'm talking about, these are no longer luxury things here. Now, yes, the elite class probably want them to be exclusively theirs, right? But this is the modern age. These things aren't just luxuries for the elite anymore. What they are now for us is alternative arts that are, kind of rooted in history, but it's art that celebrates individual skill, definitely bold creativity, and I would say celebrates even, deep emotions, deep, exclusively human emotions. And these arts have the capacity and the ability to snatch us away and out of this the digital prison that some of us live in. And these arts let us, and I'm saying they don't force us, they let us appreciate a ballet's grace or a symphony's building crescendo that will, no shit, stir your soul. And for me, from my flawed Christianity, I believe these fine arts reflect God's gift and God's artistry that is within us all. We all have some gift. It might not be playing the piano or a violin, but we have it though. We have the gift, a gift. And not only Christianity, right, but as an objectivist, which I consider myself as well, these fine arts reflect sort of a triumph of mankind. They celebrate love and victory and even loss and beauty and all kind of things. Much like you might find described in, I love The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, and they talk about the monument that he builds to mankind. Yeah, to the triumph of man. What we take in now, folks, is pretty shallow. The social medias are pretty shallow. Now you can get in there and you can go down rabbit holes and you can find some meaningful things, but generally speaking, it's all for the clicks. You'll look at a thing for a few seconds and move on. The fine art, be it whatever it is, the fine arts, they spark emotion. They spark creativity even, and those things are counter to this current shallowness. They're counter to the current shallowness that in some cases are, might be eating away at some folks. So what else is prevalent in the modern day? I'm talking about the sort of, I want to say historically, traditionally fine arts, right? Versus what's so prevalent today? Artificial intelligence, right? Yeah. And think of masterpieces, right? Think of Da Vinci's Mona Lisa. It's one of the most famous paintings ever. Why do you imagine it's one of the most famous paintings ever? And I'm sure everybody listening to this can picture it. Probably pretty clear in their mind. And she's got this little mysterious little grin. It's been for centuries. It's been it's been sort of a mystery. She's got this little grin. What is it for? One of my favorites. What about Rodin's statue of the thinker? Deeply bronzed in deep thought. Is it deep thought, solitary reflection? Is he contemplating life, love? What is he contemplating? He's thinking. Yeah. It's brilliant. I got a little mini thinker right on my desk. It's one of my favorites. Another one of my favorites, Van Gogh. What about Van Gogh's Starry Night? That's another famous one. Everybody knows it. That painting is almost a living thing. It's almost alive with the swirls and the way the yellow contrasts with the night. And somehow you can look at that and still see the torment of Van Gogh's torment. It's a compelling, it's a beautiful picture. And taking these things in, and they demand your time, they demand your attention, but not for empty returns, right? They pull you into some emotional contemplation, right? You can imagine that the person who created this, what must they have been thinking? What was their frame of mind? How did they get the skill that they have to do this? I don't think, in contrast with artificial intelligence, I don't think we get that same pull, that same depth. Yeah, there's some AI out there that looks really compelling. It's very detailed, but it's all just bits and pieces of recreation of something that was created by a human being. No matter how good a thing looks, no matter how detailed it is, it's only ever going to be a hollow copy of the real thing. Yeah, it's only ever going to be a hollow copy because it lacks the sweat, the struggle, the torment, the little piece of the creator's soul, a flawed creator, one who's driven mad by the loss of a woman or syphilis, or one who was enslaved for years. AI is never going to have it, folks. AI is never going to have it. Only real, true art will have it. AI is just a facsimile without actual creation. Just like our modern consumer culture, it's quickly consumable and discardable. AI turns something that could be profound beauty into just instant filters to overlay on something else. Now, me as a radical individualist, yeah, I value authenticity over the artificial. 100% I do. Now, look, folks, that's not to say AI is good. It does good things. You can use it for very productive things. Social media is good. It's a tool that helps us connect with people around the world instantly, or relatives that we would ordinarily only see once every 3 or 4 years. Now we can just check them out on the socials, say hello, see how they're doing. It's good. It's good. But then we can be tracked, we can be watched, and it's not just social media that does that, folks. It's everything. But the digital age is upon us, and it's not all good. But there's a lot of convenience that, well, is, I'd say, almost born out of necessity, but maybe not. I don't know. There's a lot of nuance to the digital modern age here. There's a lot of goodness and there's a lot of badness. But what can you do? You can make a conscious decision to consume less, right? Make a deliberate, conscious effort to consume less digital media and free up some space for the real stuff, the good stuff. Yeah, go downtown, wander into an art studio or a museum. Yeah. Go look at some fine art. Take in the textures and read the stories attached to them and about the artists and those things. Go to Woodruff Art Center for a live Mozart symphony. Oh man. Again, the first one I ever went to, I was probably, I don't know, in middle school maybe elementary school. It's been a long time. But the sound was so overwhelming. And I don't just mean loud. I mean overwhelming. And you could hear every flutter of the flute and every thunder of the big gigantic bass drum and every string of the violin. Man, it was such an experience the first time. Well, each time, but especially the first time. You were just immersed in sound and the rhythms and just every detail of the music. And those people, and it was so professional. They were just, the skill was unreal. And even then it stirred something in me, right? It stirred something in me. And it stirs something that the screens just can't. Yeah. Let yourself simmer, in the emotion. When look at a painting and look at it and take it all in. And then glance over each line and each shadow and look at even the cracks in the paint or the paint strokes. Take it all in because it's all a part of it. Let it overwhelm you. Yeah, let it move you a little bit. If only for an hour or two, you know what I mean? You're just out on a date, you know what I mean? But if you do this, I promise you that you will start to reclaim a little bit of your own emotions and of your own individuality. And in doing that, you're going to have a very solid protective barrier around your own individualism. And then, therefore, you're going to be more compelled to be mindful of your liberties. And in taking this art in, I think it draws you nearer to our Creator. Yeah. So thanks for listening to this episode, good people. Go forth, create, and feel. Yeah. I love you folks. Take care.